All right, so today we are going to finish the notes that we started the other day by factoring harder quadratics when the number in front of our x squared term is not a 1. So I'm going to do both methods, Schrock method and box method. First step, though, for each one is to factor out a GCF. 4, 12, and 5 do not have GCFs, so I can go straight to drawing my two parentheses and then filling in my first number at the beginning of the parenthesis by taking 4x squared, writing it twice without the x squared sign. Now, multiply your first and last terms. 4 times 5, which is 20. Well, what two numbers multiply to 20 but add up to your middle number of 12? 10 and 2. Put those numbers in. Does not matter. Now, last step, I need to see if I can simplify each parenthesis. Well, 4x and 2 are both divisible by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4x and 10 are also both divisible by 2. So 2x plus 5. There's our factorization of it. Box method. There was no GCF, so I go straight to drawing a box with 4 squares. Put your x squared term in the top left, your last term 5 in the bottom right. Multiply them together, 20x squared. Two numbers that multiply to 20x squared and add up to 12x are 10x and 2x. So I put those in, 10x and 2x. It does not matter where I put those two numbers. Now, I'm going to factor a GCF out of each row and each column. So the top row, 4 and 10 are both divisible by 2, and they both have an x in a common. That's a GCF. 2x and 5, they aren't divisible by anything, but all numbers are all divisible by 1. Now we look at this first column. Those signs will tell us what we're bringing out. So 2x is going to be positive, and the 1 is going to be positive. Now we're going to factor GCF out of each row. 4x squared and 2x are both divisible by 2x. 10x and 5 are both divisible by 5. And they're both positive. So there's our factors, 2x plus 1 and 2x plus 5. Remember, you could rearrange that so it's 2x plus 5, then 2x plus 1. The next one, 9x squared plus 12x plus 4, no GCF. So I'm going to factor this. With Schrock method, I'm going to draw my first two parentheses and put 9x at the beginning of each parenthesis. So you take that first term and write it twice without the squared sign. Now, take your first term, 9, and your last term, 4, multiply them together, we get 36. Two numbers that multiply to 36 but add up to our middle number of 12 are 6 and 6. So I put those in the empty spots. Well, if you notice, these two factors are the same, so they should simplify down the same. 9 and 6 are both divisible by 3. So I have 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2. Or 3x plus 2 squared. Box method, there was no GCF, so I will go straight to drawing my box with 4 squares. 9x squared, our first term, goes in the top left. 4, our last term, goes in the bottom right. Multiply them together. 36x squared. Two numbers that multiply to 36x squared but add up to 12x are 6x and 6x. I put those in the empty boxes. 9 and 6 are both divisible by 3 and they both have an x. 6 and 4 are both divisible by 2. Our first column tells us both these signs are going to be positive. Now I should get 3x and 2 along the top by factoring GCFs. So I'd have 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2 or 3x plus 2 squared. Remember, you can stop or pause this video at any time to catch up or try to work ahead and see if you did that problem right. All right, GCF. That's the same step for each one, so I'm going to factor each one of these by a 4 because that's a GCF. So 4 parentheses 3x squared plus, minus 7x minus 6. Same thing for box method. Now with Schrock method, I'm going to write my GCF. I'm going to split up two parentheses, put 3x at the beginning of each parenthesis. Now multiply your first and last term. 3 times 6, negative 6 is negative 18. Two numbers that multiply to negative 18 but add up to negative 7 are negative 9 and positive 2. The only parenthesis factor here that can be simplified is the first one for me, and they're both divisible by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I have x, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Box method, I draw my box with 4 squares. 3x squared goes at the beginning, or at the top left. Negative 6 goes in the bottom right. Multiply them together, negative 18x squared. Two numbers that multiply to negative 18 but add to negative 7 are negative 9x and 2x. Now factor a GCF out of each row in each column. 3 and 9 are both divisible by 3 and they both have an x. 2 and 6 are both divisible by 2. The numbers I'm taking out are both going to be positive because these numbers here are positive. Now my columns, 3 and 2, nothing, but they both have an x. Negative 9 and negative 6 are both divisible by 3, and since the top number is a negative, we bring out a negative. So I write my GCF, then my two factors. Again, the same exact thing for each one. Number 10, or the 10th slide here on the notes. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to divide each one by their GCF, which is a 3. So now Schrock method is going to be on the left. So I have 3 parentheses 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. I'm going to set up my two sets of parentheses. Now multiply your first and last numbers. 2 times 12 is 24. Two numbers that multiply to 24 but add up to 11 are 8 and 3. So plus 8 and plus 3. The only parenthesis that can be simplified is this one. I'm going to divide them by 2. So I have 3 parentheses x plus 4. The other one can't be simplified, so it stays 2x plus 3. Box method, draw a box with 4 squares. Sorry, the handwriting's a little messy. I'm using, I don't have the tablet that works on this, so I'm writing on the screen and it doesn't look the best. So 2x squared goes in the top left, 12 goes in the bottom right. Multiply them together, 24x squared. Two numbers that multiply to 24x squared and add up to 11 are 8x and 3x. Now I factor a GCF out of each row and each column. I need to go over here and box this in for my answer. This row has a 2x, 3 and 12 are both divisible by 3, and they're both going to be positive. 2 and 3 have nothing, but they both have an x. 8 and 12 are divisible by 4. So need to write my GCF, then my factors, 2x plus 3 and x plus 4. See, look, we're getting the same exact answer every single time using 2 different methods. Now, this bottom one, 3x squared minus 24. I'm going to factor a GCF out by 3. So 3 parentheses x squared minus 8. Well, now, x squared minus 8 is an easier quadratic that we factored before, where we didn't need these 2 methods. So we need to think what 2 numbers multiply to negative 8 but add up to our middle number here, which our middle number is gone. It is 0. 2 numbers that multiply to negative 8 and equals 0. Well, think, numbers that multiply to 8 are 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Is there any way we can manipulate those or change signs so that they add up to 0? No. So this is our simplified factoring of that quadratic. Also, the only time we can factor these types of parentheses down, or these types of polynomials, these quadratics, x squared minus a number, is when this number is a perfect square, like x squared minus 9, x squared minus 4, x squared minus 25. Okay, when those numbers are perfect squares, so we'd break it down to x plus the number and x minus number. 8 is not a perfect square. We cannot find the square root of it, so we can't break it down farther. So if we look at this top one, this bottom one first, do the same exact thing, divide each one by 9. We have 9 parentheses x squared minus 5. X squared minus 5, that cannot be broken down any farther because 5 is not a perfect square. There are not 2 numbers that multiply to negative 5 and add up to 0. One more here. Oh, sorry. We're going to go back up and do this problem. 2x squared plus x plus 3. There is no GCF. So, Schrock method. I'd go straight to writing my 2 parentheses. Put 2x at the beginning of each one. Box method. I draw my box with 4 squares. Remember, 2x squared goes at the top left. 3 goes at the bottom right. Now, we need to multiply find 2 numbers that multiply to 6. So like here, it's 2 times 3, and which is 6, and add up to 1. There are no 2 numbers that multiply to 6 and add up to 1, so we'd say this answer is prime. Or we could just go and box in our original problem. Okay? Alright, so make sure you get that assignment done. Okay? If you have questions, please don't be afraid to ask.